out there. That hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree?
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
What happens when two of the most unlikely voices in American media, Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld, decide they're on the same side for once? You get a takedown so brutal, even The View's coffee mugs looked like they were about to crack under pressure. These two don't usually agree on anything, but when they set their sights on the chaos that is The View, it turned into a roast session so sharp the internet couldn't stop laughing. And the real shocker? They weren't just clowning around. They exposed a deeper problem that The View can't afford to ignore.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
Let's be honest. The View has built a reputation for being less of a talk show and more of a daytime shouting match. It's sold as a panel of smart women hashing out important issues. But in reality, it often looks like a group project where nobody read the assignment, yet everyone insists they're the only one who gets it. Viewers know what to expect: loud interruptions, eye rolls, and the occasional viral clip that makes Twitter explode.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing.
But here's the twist. This time the critics weren't just anonymous YouTubers or political pundits. They were Bill Maher, a liberal who spent years calling out conservatives, and Greg Gutfeld, Fox News' sarcastic jester who usually treats The View like his personal punchline machine. Two men from opposite ends of the spectrum, suddenly united by one mission: dragging The View into the daylight. First up, Greg Gutfeld, the guy who never misses a chance to turn outrage into entertainment. For years, he's been skewering The View with sarcasm so sharp it could cut glass. And this time, he didn't hold back. He compared watching The View to sitting through a therapy session where the therapist keeps storming out.
Joy Behar gets racism. After all, she's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast.
He joked it's like watching a group project where no one did the reading, but everyone swears they're right. That's classic Gutfeld, turning chaos into comedy while landing a real point underneath. The show pretends to be a debate, but it's really just 5 people yelling in unison, pretending they're each the voice of reason. He mocked Joy Behar's tendency to rewrite history mid-sentence, Sunny Hostin's habit of arguing by simply declaring "I'm right," and Whoopi Goldberg's transformation into what he calls the world's most confused philosopher. Gutfeld's sarcasm wasn't just funny, it exposed how the show has turned into performance activism. a place where dissenting voices aren't invited for conversation. They're invited as target practice. But just when it seemed like Greg's jokes were enough to make the View sweat, in walks someone no one expected to join the roast. Bill Maher, the liberal firebrand who's been triggering conservatives for decades, decided it was time to aim his contrarian lens at the View. And when Maher shows up, you know it's not going to be polite.
Talk about Whoopi Goldberg, because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But
Maher accused the show of being allergic to nuance. He said disagreement on The View doesn't get treated as healthy debate. It gets diagnosed as a moral flaw. If you say something slightly out of step, you're labeled problematic, misogynistic, or his personal favorite, unenlightened. According to Maher, it's not a discussion, it's a diagnosis. And the prescription? Public apology and Twitter cancellation. His analogy? Watching The View is like sitting through a fire drill where everyone insists the smoke is your fault. Brutal. But he didn't stop there. He mocked how the hosts quote articles they haven't read, speak in hashtags instead of sentences, and use emotional volume as a substitute for actual logic. For Maher, the problem isn't just bad TV. It's that The View has turned into a stage for moral superiority and performative outrage. And if Bill Maher, a guy who's made a career roasting conservatives, is now roasting The View, that's when you know they've gone too far. Here's where things get wild. Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher agreeing on something is like cats and dogs deciding to share an apartment. It doesn't happen. Yet somehow they both landed on the same conclusion. The View has lost the plot. Gutfeld calls it ideological theater. Maher calls it culty brunch with commercial breaks. Two different punchlines, same meaning. The View has stopped being a talk show and started being a stage for groupthink. They both slammed the way the audience is trained to clap on cue, like it's a wrestling match instead of a conversation. They both noticed how independent thought isn't just discouraged, it's punished. And that's the shocking part. These two men wouldn't even agree on the color of the sky if you handed them paint samples. Yet on this, they're in lockstep. When the clowns start sounding more reasonable than the circus, you know the tent's about to collapse. The internet did what it always does, turned the whole thing into memes and viral moments. Clips of Maar and Gutfeld ripping into The View spread like wildfire. Viewers from both political sides were laughing, not just because the jokes landed, but because the criticisms felt true. Even people who usually defend The View had a hard time clapping back. The few responses that came out felt defensive and vague, like trying to put out a grease fire with glitter. Meanwhile, comment sections filled up with one rare thing: bipartisan agreement. Conservatives and liberals actually laughed together. And it wasn't because Maar and Gutfeld were being edgy, it was because they were being honest. Here's where the roast goes deeper. This wasn't just two guys dunking on a daytime talk show. It was a mirror held up to something bigger. The View has become a symbol of what happens when platforms stop being places for real conversation and turn into echo chambers. Maar and Gutfeld expose that The View doesn't want debate, it wants performance. It doesn't want curiosity, it wants applause. And in a world where everyone's already divided, the last thing we need is another stage turning disagreement into danger. Maar put it best: disagreement isn't dangerous, it's democracy. So here's the takeaway. Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher may never grab a beer together. They may spend the rest of their careers mocking each other's politics. But for one moment, they agreed on something crystal clear. The View isn't just flawed, it's lost. And maybe that's the biggest red flag of all. Because when your harshest critics stop sounding like haters and start sounding like disappointed parents, it's not a roast anymore. It's an intervention. The question is, will The View change? Or will it double down on the chaos until even its loyal fans can't pretend anymore? One thing's for sure, Maar and Gutfeld aren't done. And the next time they team up, The View better hope it has more than coffee mugs to hide behind.